And preparing for this fight, David, I want to talk about your relationship with your father, right? I mean, uh, I'm assuming he's still your head coach in your corner for this fight.
Yeah,
But
yeah, 100%.
wasn't there talks at one point that maybe you had to go somewhere else to, for whatever reason, do some soul searching or maybe experience somebody else for a while? Did that actually happen, or was that just a notion, a thought?
To be honest with you, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I was going through some stuff with my dad. We were not getting along, and I think that just happens with everybody. Everybody until you really figure out, until the cards get put to play. And I really started thinking about, like, do I want to train with somebody else?
Right.
Do I want to give anybody else the glory? You know what I mean? And
Mm.
after I thought of that, I'm like, you know what? My dad, I'm so grateful for my dad, because if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be here in this position. My dad has pushed me to the limit since I was 3 years old. And he's always been there for me. He's been my backbone. Even when I wanted to quit boxing, he told me, "So David, we can't quit. We've come too far." And this was when I was like 15 years old, you know what I mean? So, for me to just say, fuck it, I'm gonna go with another trainer. I say, you know what? Let me come back, and how can we get better together? And our
Beautiful.
relationship has gone better. Our boxing has gone better. Everything is better. So it was up to me to fix this relationship before I could go and give somebody else the glory of of being my trainer. And like I said, I'm really happy with the way that went, because out of us fighting, it made our relationship stronger. Not only as a boxer and trainer, but as a father and son. And right now we're just, I'm very happy what we're doing, and we're better now than ever. We have more chemistry, and we have more motivation to keep going and doing what we've been doing for all this time.
What have you learned from that dynamic? As you being a father yourself, something that you will implement with raising your kids.
I've been close to my father. I've lived with my father my whole life, and we've been close together. We've always been together. We're in Seattle. We were there for 6, 7 years. So I'm like, you know what? It's time for me to go be a man and do my own thing. That's why I came out here to Miami. I moved out here, and the thing about the father and son boxing duo, it's a lot of trauma that's put behind that, bro. Because there's been a lot of great moments, but there's been a lot of hard moments between me and my dad too. You know what I mean? And that's only because he's been pushing me. This when you're a boxer, bro, you have to train. You have to put your trainer has to put you in a mindset where it's like military. It's you're like a soldier. And when you go to the military, do all those guys get treated good? No. But that's what's necessary to get to the top. That's what's necessary to be a soldier and be a warrior. And just because of that, throughout the years, there's just a lot of, back and forth between us. He tells me, I think it's just natural. Father tells the son that he has to do this. The son says, no, I'm not trying to do that. So you just go back and forth
Yeah.
about a lot of things. Because sometimes you just be about stupid shit. But it's just because, like, nah, I'm not going to listen to you. And my dad's like, fuck that. You're going to listen to me. So it's just like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was already done. I was done with that. You know what I mean? And I really needed this for myself. I needed it. I basically needed to become a man. You know what I mean? I'm 28 years old. I've been a man, but once you finally move, you leave the nest, you come, I meet my own connections over here. I meet my own people, get my own team. And, I live by myself. I started living, just became a man. And you know what I mean? I didn't talk to my dad for like almost half a year, 6 months. But then it's just like it doesn't feel the same when I'm in the gym. It doesn't feel the same not having my dad's presence there. I've had my greatest sparrings with my dad's presence there. I've been there. We've been to the top and we've been to the bottom with my father.
So did you
So
make
it's
the
just
initial call? Did you break
no,
that?
my dad had been calling me, but I
Oh,
just was being a dickhead and didn't answer him. You know what I
wow.
mean? But I just, like I said, once I finally came, I came to, like, I thought that's why I made that call. I was looking for different trainers, and I was making that decision myself, and I really started to think, like, what do I really want for my life? And I had a vision, like, of me, my father. We're retired. You know what I mean? And we did everything together. We conquered the boxing world together, and that felt better for me, and then to getting another trainer. And like I said, now like we're so much of a team that I really treat this boxing stuff like I really treat it like I'm really particular about what I do. You know, I every time I'm done training, you know, I write all my combinations down. I write down what's good and what's bad. I write down what I have planned for the next day, and then I take it to my dad. You know, then we go over it. We talk about it. We watch boxing. We do all this. You know, so I can't. And this is for other boxers that are listening too. You can't expect your trainer to do 100% of the work all the time. You have to put your input. You have to be like just like how they do it in the NFL. Not only do they practice, but they're there studying the plays. They're interacting with each other. You know, they're doing everything together. You know what I mean? So I take that approach as to my boxing now, and you know, it's helped all of us. You know, it's really definitely helped all of us.
It's just great to hear that you guys reconcile, especially as a
Yes.
father and son, because that's more important than the boxing. But what would have happened was crazy is that you just would have went to another trainer. If you would have went to a great trainer, he would have been just as hard, or if not harder than your father, and you was been like, well, you know what? I should have been doing this with my father, so he could have gotten the glory.
That's exactly the mindset I had towards that. You know what I mean? If bro, boxing is when you're in there and you're mid camp, you don't want to hear shit from nobody.
Right.
So I'm thinking if I'm gonna have somebody telling me orders, it might as well be my dad because I might slap the shit out of anybody else. You know what I mean? And that's just facts. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'd rather just listen. So I'd rather just, you know, go through it with my dad, you know, just fix the problems. And also, answer your question. The reason why I did that because I looked at my son and I'm like, man, in the future, my son might have the same thoughts that I'm having now. He might be tired of me. You know what I mean? He might get tired of me and might tell me to fuck off.
Right.
You know? So I said, you know what? So for me, I want to show, you know, I want to do this right. And I want to talk to my dad. So if I ever, you know, because I plan on training my son when he gets older. If we ever have these problems, I know how to fix it. You know, I know that I could give him his space. He could go be a man and he could do whatever he wants to do. And then we'll come back and talk because what I've noticed is the father, even if you guys get in a fight, the father-son relationship, it's never going to end.
Right.
You guys might not talk if it's a really bad relationship, you guys might not talk for 5 years, but then everybody ends up coming together sooner or later, eventually.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I thought too, like I can't just think about myself. I got to think of myself like as I got to put myself in my father's shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And think about like as through his mindset. So that was my mindset through all that. And, you know, it worked out good. Like I said, I've never been happier.
Well,
Yeah,
100%.
that's
You know,
beautiful.
me being a father of a 17-year-old that doesn't get along with me too well now, but used to be by my side every moment. I could feel that energy, and I'm glad that your son kind of gave you an epiphany, and because you guys make a phenomenal team, obviously, man. So,
But then also too, like I want to add to that is like I told my father, like, man, like to be honest with you, I didn't get along with my father back then. You know, I thought he hated me, but because he fucking worked me so hard. And when I got to this moment, like I that's also too, this is what came up to my mind. I'm like, man, my dad put me through all this stuff and now nobody can fuck with me. He made a monster. It's like I should be thanking him for giving me this gift. Like
Yes.
literally nobody can fuck with me.
Yes.
In or outside the ring. You know what I mean? So and why am I gonna be mad for my dad pushing me? Why am I gonna be a bitch saying, oh, he was too hard on me, this and that? Well, look at where I'm at.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm the best ever. I can't nobody mess with me mentally or physically. And I should be thanking him. I should be thanking him. You know, I wanted to make things better with him because sometimes at the end of the day, you can't just be looking at the bad. You have to look at what the good that came out of that too. And you know, that's
and
where
you
I
don't
came
want
from.
him to ease up on you now and not push you the same, and then and not have the same results. So,
Well, now he don't really push me. I push myself now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's over with. You know, I made sure that I told myself for my dad, you know, not to really. Well, my dad respects me way more now, but for him not to, you know, to sometimes when you gotta motivate a fighter, man, let's go. But I'm the type of fighter I am is that my dad has to actually pull me back because I work way too hard. You know what I mean? And that's only because I don't want to go through those things between me and my dad. You know, I want my dad to feel comfortable.
So you're not lazy anymore. You're not lazy anymore like back in the day.
No, I'm not. And I like I said, I want because my dad, you know, this boxing game is scary, and sometimes when people don't take their fucking job serious, that's when you get hurt. So for me to give my family, my father, the comfortability mentally, you know, I'm in there working like a fucking animal, and that's only because my dad taught me to be like that.